What has it been like having a Timneh? First of all, guys, I have to tell you, I have really had a Timneh on my bucket list for a long time. A long, long time. Hey guys, I'm Kaylin, the author of The Parrot, Bliss Bond. I have other books, coloring books, merch like this cool bird mom that my daughter did. She did the design. If you want to check those out, watch to the very end. At the very end, I will have a video showing you some of the things that I have. In the meantime, this is Gaia Bliss, and I had no intention of getting a Timneh. My flock is pretty full. I do have over 22 species of parrots. I love my parrots, and I love sharing about my parrots and helping you hopefully have a more blissful bond. But my flock is full. However, Hera, my African gray, is the only African gray I have left. Unfortunately, the others have perished. They weren't young. I had adopted them as adults. And so I have been wanting for Hera to have a companion because she's clearly getting lonely, and it's just, not a good thing. I didn't want to get a baby African gray because Hera's an adult and babies and adults don't mix. When it's their baby, it mixes. When it's a different baby, they don't mix. And of course, I don't want to wind up in the scenario where Hera, perishes because she's older and she's going blind. She really isn't a spring chicken, and then have a single African gray again. I am a very, very strong believer that, generally speaking, parrots should have a buddy. The exception are going to be some of the species that aren't going to get along. They aren't as social. And so I really believe that they need to have a buddy. When they have a buddy, I feel like their well-being instantly just automatically goes up quite a bit without my necessarily having to do anything. They're happier, they have their own flock, they have someone to talk to who speaks their actual species language. I think these things are really significant and important. So when I saw Gaia Bliss and I found out that she was 15 years old, I was like, oh my goodness. I don't know if I can pass this up. Gaia has been so cool and so awesome. So the idea is that she's going to be buddies with Hera, and once a quarantine period is over, I'm going to see if I can put them together because I don't know whether or not they'll go together. Now, both of them being African grays means that it is very likely that they will get along, but a Congo African gray probably would have been a better choice for me. However, I did give in to the fact that I just have always wanted a Timneh. Once upon a time when I was researching about African grays, Timnehs and Congos, I read that Timnehs are not quite as bright and beautiful in the sense that where an African gray has a nice bright red feather or for their tail, the Timneh, you could see, and it's actually kind of hard to see right now, her tail looks dark, but it's really like a wine burgundy kind of beautiful color. And so the Timneh's colors aren't as striking. I think it's pretty fair to say that they're more muted. Then again, so is their talking and their personality. So that means that, and their size. Timnehs are actually smaller than African grays. Gaia Bliss is 277 grams, whereas Hera is, I'm trying to remember now. Is she 400? Hera's 400 grams. So I have a fair size difference. Hera is not twice Gaia's size, but close. And this is also part of why when I decide to try to put them together, I have to really watch and really make sure that they get along. I'm suspecting that Hera wanting a buddy, she's done so well with having other African grays with her in the past, that I'm suspecting she'll be fine and she'll actually be very happy to welcome a new friend. But I do have to watch that because they do have that size difference. Now, typically speaking, African grays can get up to like 500 grams, maybe 600, and I think on the low end, I think they're like 300 if memory serves. And maybe they're a little higher, maybe anyway, and Timnehs, they're a little less. They're going to be like 250, 270, up to about 300, 350, 400. So their range is a little lower, and you could see that Gaia Bliss is definitely a smaller bird than pair of my African gray. Now, you may kind of not know this, so just as a side note, African grays, they come from a pretty wide variety of places in Africa. And so one of the things that happens is, depending on which region they're from, they can be different sizes. And so literally, it's kind of hard. Like, sometimes people will say in a species of parrots, the males are bigger than the females. But with Congo African grays, that doesn't really help you much, because depending on where they're from, the males might be smaller and the females might be bigger than those males, because the males might be a big size within their region. But if the female is a big size in her larger region, then, you know, she can be like larger than him, and it's normal sizes for both of them. You would kind of think that at this point in the US, the African grays might be, you know, so intermixed that they might have an average size, but I really do find that some African grays can be a little smaller and some are a little bigger. I do see a difference. And sometimes it's not a difference you could just see with your eye, but if you weigh them, you can really see that difference. So for that, and I say that because it kind of shows some of the real difference between that Congo African gray and the Timneh, where the Congo, you know, they have a variety of sizes within a range, and I don't know the Timneh to have that variety of sizes. But given that, the Timneh is a smaller parrot, and the Timneh does talk, but they are not the prolific talkers that African grays are. So African grays, once upon a time, became far more popular because of those brighter colors, and because they are much better talkers, generally speaking, than the Timnehs. They're cousins, kind of thing. This is the same Citadea, I believe, if I'm pronouncing it right, family. And this one's Arathicus timnus or something like that, whereas the Congo is Citadea citicus or something like that. I don't ever hear the Latin words, so I don't learn them. I just learn what I remember. All right, so she has been really great. Her temperament's fantastic. Being 15 years old, her life expectancy could go to 50, but in captivity, generally speaking, my veterinarian's research site says that they live 15 to 25 years. So Gaia Bliss could, already, I don't feel like she's old, but she is already certainly midlife, and she could have 10 years in her. She could have more, right? She's 15. She could really have another 35 years in her. It's just not likely. In other words, humans can also live to 100, and there are centenarians in the world, but the chances that everyone you meet is going to live to be 100 are very low or impossible. So the chance of Gaia Bliss actually living to 50 is probably pretty slim. So she's definitely, at least a middle-aged bird. And I think that because of that, she is easygoing. My daughter and I suspect that her previous owner was a male, because she really likes my husband, even though he hasn't even picked her up. And when we're eating, I'm offering to feed her, and she just goes to my husband and his plate to be fed. So it seems really obvious that, number one, she had a male owner who loved her and was very good to her. And number two, she had a male owner who loved her and fed her, because she really prefers human food to her pellets, which so far she hasn't touched. And number three, he gave her Cheetos, because my daughter grabbed her bag of Cheetos. She was holding the bag, and Gaia Bliss instantly got excited. Her eyes widened, and she started going for my daughter like, oh my God, I want some. And clearly she recognized the Cheetos. In case you're curious, no, Cheetos are not necessarily good for parrots. They're corn, and we buy an off-brand at Trader Joe's, and the ingredients, I like them better than the name brand, but it's still cornstarch and either processed or fake cheese, whatever it is. Not the greatest ingredients. These are not micronutrients. This is not nutrition in the sense that I believe it's pretty devoid of any vitamins or minerals. So it's junk food, and just like you, it really isn't for your parrot. Just another side note, in case you're wondering. Because one day I was eating pizza and I gave her some pizza. It was keto pizza, so the dough is nut flour and eggs, and that's it. But the pizza does have mozzarella on it, and she took a bite, and I'm just trying to acclimate her to the flock, acclimate her to us, let her feel comfortable and feel at home. So I made an exception and I let her have some, but someone asked me about the cheese. And the strange thing is, some sites will say that you can give parrots dairy food. You can, and it's not going to kill them, but they aren't made to digest it. So the same is kind of true of the Cheetos, and that's why I'm talking about it here and now, just in case you're curious about the Cheetos. So, Gaia Bliss so far is just very sweet. She hasn't bitten, although she doesn't like for me to pick her up. She would prefer that I didn't, but she would prefer to eat off my plate. So she's kind of a character. She's very easygoing. I really like her. If I was looking to increase my flock, if I didn't have very many parrots, man, I wouldn't be close to another Timneh. I really, really like her. And you know, I would get another Congo too, because then I would have 2 of each. But she's just really, really easygoing. So far, a parrot that's very easy to have because she's not noisy, she's not really messy, she's not loud, she's not like fighting with other parrots, being mean to anyone in the family. She's not been a one-person bird. She has just been delightful, as you can see. Now, does she talk? So far, not really. My husband said that she did say hello to him, and sometimes she talks, but it's kind of like watching Charlie Brown. I hear this, and basically, I think that she's trying to mimic human speech. A lot of our parrots do that. Like, when you don't say the same thing over and over, they try to mimic, they're trying to pick things up. When you have your regular vocabulary and you're saying all sorts of things, it's harder for them to pick things up. So they start by sort of picking up, like Charlie Brown, the intonations and the sounds. And so it sounds like she's saying something, but I'm waiting to see how much she may or may not really talk. Like I said, my husband says she says hello, and that's really exciting. But other than that, it's going to be a game of wait and see. But I am enthralled. Of course, if you watch my channel, and if you do, I really appreciate it. And you give me one of these, and if you do, I really appreciate it. Or if you're a YouTube member, I love my YouTube members. We meet on Discord, and we've gotten to know each other, and just, it's a fabulous group. But if you watch my channel, then you will know that I just don't have a parrot I don't like. I love all my parrots, all 22 plus species. They're all different, they're all unique, they're all awesome. Just awesome. So I love talking about them, and I love helping you have a blissful bond, which is what I aim to do with my newest book, which is a journal, and it's meant to help you know some basics about parrot keeping so that you know what to write down, you know what to keep track of, you know what Teflon not to have for your parrot and things like that, to just really help you get going, plus places to journal. Most of it's journaling so that you can journal, and a weekly space for a well-being check so that you can keep your track of your parrot, preparing you so that, number one, you'll become more easily aware if something's wrong, and number two, you'll know what to tell your veterinarian when you take them into the vet. I hope you enjoyed this. I am certainly enjoying Gaia Bliss. Thanks for sticking with me to the end, and like I said, you can watch now, and I'll show you some of my other offerings.